Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. It's been a hot minute since I played some Oopsal spells on the channel, and there's some new technology that's quite exciting to look at, so here we are. The new technology is being able to play more lands, really, and playing actual blue spells sometimes. So a lot of this is going to be coming from our sideboard, but the general game plan of Oops remains the same. We are trying to put an Undercity Informer or Balustrade Spy into play. We target ourselves. Because we have no lands in our deck, we flip over our entire deck. The Narcomoebas jump out the graveyard, then we Cabal Therapy our opponent to check the coast is clear, and then we Dread Return, bringing back our Thassa's Oracle. And it says you win the game, and there we go. This particular build has some really interesting stuff. Jack-o'-lantern, so this allows us to filter mana once this is in the graveyard. So we can use this to filter mana into the green for the Memory's Journey, which allows us to shuffle things back in so we can avoid graveyard hate. We've also got Thoughtseizes and Pact of Negation to disrupt our opponent and protect our kill. We can also Thoughtseize ourselves and use our one of Reanimate. Mostly the Reanimate is there as a package to go with our Memory's Journey, but you can use the Reanimate to go off if you've got that in your opener and you can just discard your thing. We've got some other fast mana here in the form of... we've got fast mana here in the form of Lotus Petal, Spirit Guide, and we can use these for the Dark Rituals and Cabal Rituals just to get up to the things we're trying to do. We have Bridge from Below, so we have a little bit of redundancy if we draw our Narcomoebas. And yeah, this is a deck that on its face is very simple, but there's quite a lot of interesting choices to it. We have a Poxwalkers here, which is another thing a bit like Bridge from Below, where it allows us to fire off multiple Cabal Therapies here. So this build's got 2 Cabal Therapies. We can fire them both off with Poxwalkers, because as soon as you play a Cabal Therapy, your Poxwalkers jumps out the bin and is ready to go. Sideboard-wise, there's an interesting selection of stuff on offer here. So Bouncing Problem Permanence is one of them. Stifling something like an Endurance or a Gnarl Spellbomb is another one, or even a Fairy Macabre. We've got some more lands to board in. So what we can do is if we're worried about graveyard hate in a certain fashion, we board in the lands and then we can have 4 Thassa's Oracle. So we can mill our whole deck. It doesn't matter if it's going into a Layer on the Void. If we've got a Thassa's Oracle in hand that we can deploy, and that's a pretty cool way of doing things. And we also have a Duress that we can pick apart our opponent's hand with. I got a little guide off of Faltered Form who's been playing this deck and doing well with it. And I highly value their opinion on sort of combo decks, especially this one. So let's jam and see how we get on. Alright, let's have a look at our opening hand. We have 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana, Balustrade Spy, we win the game. This is a turn 1 kill. We will keep this. It doesn't have any protection, but you can't have everything. An Underground Sea. A Ponder. 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. So we could wait 1 turn so that we can play around a daze. That gives our opponent the chance to sculpt into a Force of Will with Ponders and whatnot. I didn't shuffle off that Ponder. Would love to draw another piece of fast mana here. That would be the best. I think I want to play a land tapped so that we can play around the days. We can't play around Force of Will, but we can play around the days. So we may as well give that a go. Our opponent's got 2 mana up. Okay, so now we have a pretty good line here. So we play this and pay 3 life. We can fire off a Thoughtseize. Check the coast is clear. Very much rewarded for waiting here. Force of Will, Force of Will. Okay, so this isn't quite going to get us where we need to go, is it? So we take one of the Force of Wills here, and then we can play out a Lotus Petal. And we don't really need to do anything else just yet. We're looking for more Thoughtseizes or a Pact of Negation, something along those lines, or another creature so that we can just send one and then send the next. Although, if we send a Balustrade Spy and our opponent reanimates it, they can target us and kill us. Although, actually, no, we have a Jack-o'-lantern, so that won't work. That'd actually help us out. Alright, Underground Sea from their hand. And Entomb, you say. Okay. So now they would like to reanimate their Atraxa. We have a play. Do we think we can beat an Atraxa here? They're digging. What are they going to find? They can probably find... They already have Force of Will. Because I'm thinking we could sink into Stupor, this reanimate, but then they can just cast it again. That doesn't really help us out, does it? Alright, I think this one has slipped away from us. There is a daze there. We don't care about the daze. The Brainstorm is more problematic for us. We need to find something this turn. We're also vindicated for not sending straight away and playing around the daze, because when we saw our opponent's hand, it was one that we're not going to be able to beat. And they would have had at least one of those Force of Wills in their hand. Alright, Brainstorm, Reanimate, Troll, Wasteland. Alright, we can still play here. We've got to beat Force of Will and Daze. That does not beat Force of Will and Daze. Our opponent gets to do some more sculpting. There's no point just sending, like, out here. I think we'll cast our Narcomoeba and then play a Soporific Springs. We don't care about our opponent's life total. We don't really care about our life total either. But we can take one hit and then play an untapped black source. So our opponent might spend their time... Sure, you can fatal push R1-1, it doesn't matter. So our opponent can spend their time wastelanding our black source, but we have a black source from our Petal and this Boggart Trawler. So we're going to lose our Fell Mire almost certainly here. Yep. We don't need to see what our opponent's got there. We know the two cards we're playing around. A Pact of Negation does it here. A Thoughtseize might do it. And the Troll, are they going to get a Surveil land? Or have they got more stuff? No, just a basic swamp. Is this just to brainstorm back into the deck? Okay, they just want to reanimate another creature, so we're definitely dead next turn. Understood. A Dark Ritual. Right, so our opponent might counterspell a Cabal Ritual here. I don't think they will, but it's a thing they might do. Because we're obviously gated on black mana. Let's go for this Balustrade Spy. Our opponent's going to cast a Force of Will, and then we lose the game. Alright, we didn't quite get there. Our opponent knew what we were playing anyway at that point, so we're not concealing any information. The guide I have says the Cabal Rituals come out in favour of Duresses. That's step 1. And then we have to work out what graveyard hate our opponent has. I think we're just supposed to send it like this with the 3 Duresses in, rather than trying to board in the Stifles for... Because our opponent can have various different types of graveyard hate. So they could have anything from Surgical Extraction to Nile Spellbomb to Fairy Macabre. So I don't think we want these. I don't think we're trying to fit in the extra Thassa's Oracles. Alright, we're going to try it like this still. We just want our disruption to work here. What do we have? No route to our combo, but we have some disruption. No real lands to cast it though. So this is a mulligan. This isn't going to get us anywhere either. This requires us to draw a creature. Has a little bit of hand disruption. So we can go like Boggart Trawler, Cabal Therapy, but then we are just trying to draw one of our creatures. So that's... We're on an 8 outer then. And how many cards we get to keep? So the bridge can go. Be one of the ones that goes here. And probably a Spirit Guide. Is that good enough? I think we probably have to dig to our piece. Like this was better. Disruption. Maybe we keep this, but I think we mulligan again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can keep this. We get rid of the Narcomoeba, and I want to get rid of this Elvish Spirit Guide. I know we need mana here, but we have the ability... I don't think we even play our land out here. We have the ability to reanimate our opponent's things if they give us that line, and the reanimate plus any like acceleration, so we accelerate, play a Balustrade Spy. The wasteland is why we did not play the thing. Okay, so we have a reanimate that's unlikely to be useful in the face of this Ghost Vacuum. I think our opponent's just going to have us here. I was not expecting this out of our opponent. We play this, it gets wastelanded. I think it's more important to not get wastelanded here. Our opponent can't daze this. A Force of Negation and a Ponder. That's all they've kept. Okay. Take the Force because that's something we're going to have to beat through at some point. If we have enough mana, we can beat the Vacuum using Memory's Journey. But there's already stuff stacked up against us here. There is a Ponder. Yeah, losing game 1 is a bit rough. Narcomoeba is not the one. Generally speaking, our deck struggles against a double Force hand. And that's exactly what happened in game 1. Thoughtseize. Okay, they're going to take our Balustrade Spy or our land. Either is useful, I guess. They took our land. Sure. Like, if our opponent can represent any sort of win condition, then we can probably scoop this up. We have time at the moment. And our opponent's hand was basically Wasteland plus Force. That was all they were doing. Obviously, this Ghost Vacuum. Sure, so now they have a creature under the Boggart Trawler, which they can put in at instant speed to wipe our graveyard. Pretty good. Animate Dead on Archon of Cruelty. If we discard our Balustrade Spy, they can Ghost Vacuum it. I'm going to take one more draw and then scoop. Alright, I don't think we're winning this one. Let's just scoop that up. Yep, not really the greatest start to the league, but it's nice to have a powerful combo deck like ours that does have weaknesses and, you know, sometimes can't play through what his opponent's doing. It sucks for us, but it's probably healthy that way. Let's go to round 2. Alright, we're on the play, which is a good place for us to be. What does our hand do? It doesn't really get there, does it? So I think we will mulligan this one. Alright, 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. Make this. I think we keep this one. We just need 1 more mana and we can Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapy our opponent. Let's see what you're working with, opponent. Wasteland makes this bad for us. An Endurance is probably what I'm going for here. Or do we take the Reclaimer and then we can Cabal Therapy the Endurance next turn? Because once the Reclaimer's up and running... Oh, they got the Boggart Trawler in hand, actually. Huh. But they might have Echoing Deeps. I think we just take the Endurance here. Okay, well, once upon a time, what are you going to find? A White of the Reliquary. So we're going to see Burning Catacombs, Cracked, go and play this Elvish Reclaimer. They might Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor, actually. But I think if we're taking an Endurance from them, they're probably incentivized to get this if they do have something that can change this into what they need. Can we find a land or a mana source? We can. Okay. Let's got a Cabal Ritual on the go. Play our Petal. Undercity Informer. Blast our deck to smithereens. So, we're finally getting to combo off here. So all these Narcomoebas jump out the bin. And, yeah, so then we just Dread Return, get our thing back, win the game. Alright, so what do we want for this matchup? Alright, so Pact of Negation. We're not trying to beat counter spells. The Cabal Rituals come out in favour of some Hydroelectric Specimens, which are lands. We also want the Oracles and the Stifles here. And then that leaves us needing to cut 2 cards. So Poxwalkers is probably the one here. And then, is it the Reanimate? The guide I have says it's probably the Reanimate. So it's either this or one of our lands, but if you've already got rid of our Cabal Rituals, I'm happy getting rid of Reanimates, I think. Alright, this is our plan. This hand doesn't do the thing. Let's send this one back. What does this hand do? 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, none of it black. None of our stuff to disrupt our opponent with either. I think we can do better. What about this one? This one just requires us to find a land to start the whole thing going. We can smash up our opponent's hand a little bit. So we're getting rid of... If we were to keep this, we get rid of Dread Return, Thassa's Oracle, Memory's Journey. We still need to have 2 draws before we can attempt to go off. So I think we're going to mulligan yet again. So we've got 4 cards here. Fell the Profane, Thoughtseize, Balustrade Spy. Alright, I think we have to keep this one. So the Journey, the Oracle go. And it's a choice between these 2 cards. I think Cabal Therapy is going to serve us better than anything else here. So I'm going to put back the Spy with the aim of using our Undercity Informer. Because if we have to 2-turn this whilst we've seen our opponent's hand twice, that's fine. Our opponent's very unlikely to have any removal for this post board. The issue here is our opponent can go turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer and just hold up the Boggart Box shields, which means we're going to have to draw into the Stifle plan. Alright, just an Ignoble Hierarch. That is great news. So we get to dome ourselves for 5 here. Thassa's Oracle, not the one we wanted, but it's the one we have. Alright, let's Thoughtseize, and then we have Cabal Therapy to follow up with next turn. Mindbreak Trap, Mindbreak Trap. Okay, there is a Boggart Bog over there. There is Mindbreak Trap over there. We can play that. The Boggart Bog in our opponent's hand is once again pretty annoying for them, to be honest. It's not really where they want it. But they have to keep something because their deck doesn't have that many ways of dealing with this matchup if we go on turn 1. Right, we're getting jabbed by the little guy. So we need to find some more mana sources. That's another mana source. Do I want to get rid of this Mindbreak Trap? So... Mindbreak Trap doesn't stop us, really, does it? So I don't think we need to. I think we can save this and try and hit something later on down the line. So we can use that to maybe snipe out an Endurance. That would be handy. That's the main sort of turn 0 interaction our opponent has. The Mindbreak Trap is just like some added stuff, which doesn't always work. Depends how many rituals and things we have to play to get our creature on the stack. Alright, our opponent is showing us a land we didn't know they have in hand, so we still have perfect information. They're bashing us for 2. This suggests to me that our opponent doesn't have a Surveil land, because otherwise they probably would have played this Catacombs. Unless did I miss that Catacombs already? I might have missed that Catacombs being played, actually. A Dread Return. This isn't the one, is it? Not the one at all. We're not under a great deal of pressure, but we might be looking at firing off a Cabal Therapy in the near future, so that when we can go on our turn, we'll have more mana to do so. A Noble Hierarch. So we get to Cabal Therapy, the Mindbreak Trap, with what we have here, before our opponent gets to use it. Alright, this is 3 damage. It's ticking up, isn't it? Hydroelectric Specimen. This allows us to go next turn. So I think we will Cabal Therapy our opponent, and we will name Endurance. a Snuff Out. That's not going to be helping them, is it? So we play this tapped. And then next turn, we can play the Undercity Informer. Any fast mana allows us to go off. Collector Oof. That shuts down our Lotus Petal, which could be relevant. Yep, this is going to hit us for 3 damage. Right, the Duke getting rid of our Cabal Therapy. That's not irrelevant, because we need to Cabal Therapy the Dread Return out of our hand. So maybe this Mindbreak Trap does get us. So this is spell number 1. We mill ourselves here. That's spell number 2. Is there a way we can do this? Can we use Jack-o'-lanterns while Collector Oof is in play? I don't know. Let me have a quick Google. Alright. Jack-o'-lantern only affect... the Collector Oof only affects artifacts in play. So we have a line here. We block. We sack this. In the upkeep, we can Memory's Journey and then win. Because we get to take 3 more damage then. Alternatively, we just take the 3 damage here, and then we sacrifice this, and then we just cast the Thassa's Oracle from hand. That also works for us too. This deals us 4 damage here. I think the line here is to sacrifice this in our turn, and then use the 2 Jack-o'-lanterns to get there. This gives us 1 more draw, which could be useful. Sacrifice this, target ourselves. So draw an endurance, then they win. Actually, they don't win here, right, if they have an endurance. Because we still get to Jack-o'-lantern. Once upon a time. Right, they get a look here. But we can win by casting this 1 from hand. An endurance, sure. This doesn't win our opponent the game here. I will make a blue mana. And then you can endure... Oh, no, this does work, actually, right? Oh, no, because the endurance is going to put these all in, so our Thassa's Oracle doesn't actually work here. Oh, no. That doesn't work at all, does it? No, there's nothing we can do there. For a minute, I thought I puzzled it through. Yeah, awkward. All right, we're on the play, though, so that's certainly going to help. Let's fire in again. I like this build with the fact that you just have the more oracles, so you can kind of do those lines. But yeah, the endurance not removing the graveyard, but putting it on the bottom of your library is awkward, for sure. All right, so what do we have here? We have blue land, Stifle, which is useful, red source. How many black sources do we actually have, though? 12 black sources. I'm not going to take the risk when our deck is very good at doing its thing. 1, 2, 3. We don't have a creature. All right, let's go lower. All right, we have this. All right, so we can Thoughtseize and then have a go, right? 2 of these cards got to go back. It's got 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. So we get rid of one of these. So we can Thoughtseize on turn 1 and have to draw a mana. Our opponent's going to keep a hand that can do something here, so I think it is correct to keep the Thoughtseize hand. Because our opponent is not going to fail to use the London Mulligan rule to get something to interact with us here. Alright, Thoughtseize, do your stuff. Elvish Reclaimer, Green Sun Zenith, Noble Hierarch. So we take out the Reclaimer here, because that can go and get the Bojuka Bog. And then we need to draw any mana source in our deck, which is the most abundant component of our deck. Actually, not any mana source. It needs to not be a land, actually. So there's 6... No, there's a lot of draws, actually, that don't do it for us. We might have to wait another turn. So we're probably going to see the Noble Hierarch here, unless they want to ramp out with a Green Sun, but I think the Green Sun is going to be used to get something like a Collector Roof to shut down some of our mana production. But Dark Ritual's good here. Any Spirit Guide is good. Alright, there is the Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual. Play 3 life. Cast this. Target ourselves. Hopefully put a W on the board. We've got Jack-o'-lantern mana, so we can Memory's Journey in response to something here. If our opponent happened to draw an endurance. Right, they're letting us do all these, which is a good sign for us. Right, so we Cabal Therapy first, flash it back, see what our opponent's working with. We get a Bridge from Below trigger. I think our opponent probably would have done an endurancing if they had it already. Snuff Out on the Narcomoeba. Sure, that gets us another zombie. It doesn't impact our creature total here. Alright, our opponent's scooping it up. So we're just going to Cabal Therapy, check the coast is clear. There's not anything weird over there. We can always fire back the other Cabal Therapy because there's 2 in this build. And then we can just Dread Return, get back our Thassa's Oracle, and win the game. So we're on the board now with the match. Let's go to round 3. Right, we're into round 3. Our hand is pretty slow here. I think we can get something a bit choppier in terms of how quick we're going off. Lots of mana, but nothing to do with it. Lots of mana, nothing to do with it. I think we go to 4. Alright, we have mana source here and a Dark Ritual. And another mana source. Keep this. Put back these 3 cards. We can't go on turn 1 unless we want to just hang out a Undercity Informer, which doesn't feel like a great play. Another Undercity Informer. Okay, I'm more into hanging out this Informer now. So we can wait till next turn, but if our opponent has a wasteland, then we're in the same spot we're in this turn. And our opponent is playing something that gives me some reanimatory vibes. I don't know, it's just a Bloodstone Mark. Undercity Sewers, okay. So we might be losing our creature, we'll see. A Dark Ritual from our opponent. So our opponent is most likely on Doomsday. That's the most common Undercity Sewers Dark Ritual deck. I guess it could be the Epic Storm as well, but it's more likely to be... Okay, this definitely feels like Doomsday now. So they could Doomsday. As long as they don't win this turn, we at least have a shot. A Chrome Mox. Okay, maybe this is more on the Storm ballpark. A Brainstorm under the Chrome Mox. Another Dark Ritual. So up to Beseech the Mirror mana, so I imagine they're going to see that sacrificing the Chrome Mox here. There it is. So our opponent can just get a Gaia's Will, and that should be lethal here. So they just play all their spells and then kill us here. So Storm is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. Plenty to kill me. All right. Different matchup. Let's see what we want to be doing with this one. So Pact of Negation is certainly not helping us out here. I can work that one out for myself. We're probably going to want some Duress and some Stifle, I would imagine, here. And then we're going to make some cuts. So probably looking at the Poxwalker. There it is. Poxwalker. Reanimate. That takes us to the round 61 that we like to play. Seems fine by me. Our opponent is unlikely to interact with us very much. Turn 1, Duress. Turn 2, Duress again. Okay. We just need to find one more bit of mana, and then we can go. This seems like a pretty strong hand on the play. Let's see what you're working with, opponent. Veil of Summer. So it's just the Vexing Bauble that we care about here for our perspective. Right, so we'll play out a couple of petals. Good to know about the Bauble, though. We'll play these out in case they draw another one. But the problem with them having a Vexing Bauble is that we can't cast Dread Return for free. So we have to get creative. A Stifle. That's not the one we wanted. Right, let's fire another Duress up our opponent. So this is likely to be a Duress that slows our opponent down. They might just cast this Veil of Summer, though. Yep, it's just going to be the Veil. So we force our opponent to fetch. So they can't do any Brainstorm fetches if they draw a Brainstorm. It does give them a route to drawing an extra card, though. But we're very unlikely to use this Duress next turn, because next turn is hopefully the go turn. We still have Stifles. The Dark Ritual. Are they going now? Maybe we get them with a... I'm going to say maybe we get them with the Stifle here. Right, so we lose the Balustrade Spy. Unless our opponent is killing us this turn. Alright, we're dying this turn. Cool. I do think that Storm combos, like the best Storm combo decks, are among the best decks in... the best combo decks in Legacy. But they are also very, very difficult to pilot. So I think the win rate on them is maybe lower than it is in reality. Burning Wish. 2 mana floating. Lion's Eye Diamond cracks. They have 5 mana there. So they can go get the Beseech out of their sideboard. And fire that off into another Beseech, into another Beseech, into a Tendrils. Is that lethal? I believe it is. Yep, so they Beseech here. This takes them up to 7. They get another Beseech. Crack this. This takes them up to 8. And then they have lethal. Well played, opponent. Let's go to round 4. We're cruising through this one, but we kind of knew that going in. We have no beginning mana for this one, so I think we have to mulligan it, unfortunately. Maybe we'll keep a 7. If you ever keep a 7 with this deck, you feel basically unbeatable. So you have a lot of mana, but it doesn't do the thing. So let's try and do the thing, shall we? 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. How many of these do we have to throw away? We're on 5. So we get rid of these 2. And then we have a turn 2 combo. It's something. I'm going to play the Sink into Stupor first. Because if that one gets wastelanded, it's less of an issue for us. Because we can rebuild and have a black source. Whereas if we lose our black source, then it might be a lot harder to draw the right mana to actually combo off. This also might throw our opponent off the center a little bit. They might think that we are a different sort of combo deck, perhaps. They probably think we're a combo deck that we went to 5. Flooded Strand. What flavor of Flooded Strand are we looking at here? Uh-oh. Blue-black deck, you say? So our opponent is almost certainly selecting for counter magic here. But our opponent's draws will be better than ours because they get to select for them. We don't have that. Yes, I'll pay some life. I think we're going to Thoughtseize this turn since our opponent's showing us some blue stuff over there. The Lotus Petal, Underground Sea. Again, makes me think Doomsday, even though we did just play against a Storm deck that had a similar opener. You don't see Ponder as often in Storm decks these days. We'll see what our opponent's up to. Alright, our opponent's going to brainstorm in response and hide some cards. That suggests to me that our opponent is more on the combo-y front. But if our opponent is a Doomsday deck, I think we have to Thoughtseize because they can have days and or Force of Will. Whereas if we had indication that our opponent wasn't playing Doomsday and it was like a different combo deck, then maybe we just send it this turn instead. But I think it is right to Thoughtseize against the Lotus Petal Underground Sea start. Force of Will on our Thoughtseize. Yikes. So that's exactly the reason why we didn't just send it there. We need to get to our next turn. A Dark Ritual. So this could be a Doomsday. They need the last card in their hand to be good, though. Doomsday. So they need the last card in their hand to either be a cantrip or a daze, and hope that we don't draw another piece of mana. That's all the level we're looking at. There's a very slim possibility they have something like a Spell Pierce in their deck. That is a useful piece of interaction that does float in and out of a lot of blue decks. Alright, we get to see our opponent's list now. Psychic Frog, Tamiyo, so kind of like what is traditional these days, Tempo Doomsday. That's what it now looks like for the most part. Do they have a Cycler? They do not. Alright. Can we draw a land or are we going to get killed by our opponent's days? Alright, we get to win the game, I think. Our opponent has one card in hand. We have a Pact of Negation. Cycling your Street Wraith. Be my guest. Have you got a daze there? Would it consider into daze? That would make sense. A daze. Say no to dazes in your area. Right, so our opponent has one card in hand and it's a land. So we do just get to tee off here. So our Narcomoeba is jumping out the bin. Our opponent's just letting us go through this so they can see what's in our deck. Taking a nice little look to see our specific build. The Double Jack-o'-lantern's pretty interesting. So the Dread Return there somewhere. Let's go and get back a Thassa's Oracle. Right, so the Oracle jumps out the bin. We look at top cards of our library. There are none. Then the win the game trigger goes on. So the guide I've been given says that we want to be taking out our Cabal Rituals for Duresses, and that's basically it. And that makes sense to me. So let's submit and try this out. So our hand for the post-sideboard game does not do the thing. Memory's Journey is weirdly good against Doomsday, though. But I think we're going to mulligan still. What are we doing here? 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. It's too slow to win this matchup. 1 mana. So we can't do our disruption elements on this 5-card hand. But any black land is good. Alright, I think we keep this. We probably only get one shot. So let's get rid of the Undercity Informer. And I get rid of a Duress here. It's unlikely to be able to leverage 2 Thoughtseizes. Our opponent turn 1s us. We'd probably lose. And what have you got for us, deck? Right. Our opponent doesn't play Wastelands. Well, I didn't see any Wastelands in their build, and they normally don't run them in Doomsday, so I'm not expecting any. Our opponent's doing a Brainstorm and an attempt to try and win the game next turn. They need to put their foot on the gas here and try and win the game, and I don't blame them. Just need to draw a black source. Graph Digger's Cage, you say? Yeah, that's definitely an awkward one for us, isn't it? I was not expecting the cage out of the Doomsday player, but it is what it is. Alright. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent. If our opponent does a Doomsday past a turn line, we can Balustrade Spy them and maybe take out their whole library that way. That's kind of an interesting option available to us. Cycling a Street Wraith. Sure. Force of Will, pitching Thassa's Oracle. Alright, so our opponent has multiple Oracles in their deck. Not a surprise. Well, they might not do. They might just be on the fair plan. with like the frogs and stuff like that and just have lots of interaction for us. A ponder. So Balustrade Spy is certainly an awkward one here. Cavern of Souls, naming wizard presumably. Oh no, it's frog. Alright, we're about to see a psychic frog. Yeah, so they're probably just going down the tempo route here. They can just dump a load of cards and just beat us down with this frog. A Simian Spirit Guide. What use is casting a Balustrade Spy now? None at all. We can't use a Memory's Journey because it has flashback. Right, let's dress our opponent and make them just pump the frog by 2. That's quite likely to happen here. Alright. Psychic Frog pitching a Daze. So if they've got a land in hand, then they can let us duress them, or a creature or whatever. But otherwise it's almost certainly going into the frog now, if it's something we can take. Yep. They're pitching some counter magic. I think that's the correct play here. Just get the frog damage going. A Fell the Profane. We could kill their psychic frog. Cost us our dark ritual to do so. We want to do it now before our opponent has more cards to protect it with. Given the spot we're in, I think that's better than just playing it as a land. Right, you can brainstorm. Because if we play it just as a land here, then our opponent gets to bash us for a good chunk of damage. Then they also get to draw a card, which could then draw them towards some more disruption, even if we can try and get off the runway here. Right, it's dead. Good. So our opponent is hopefully not very threat dense. So that buys us a few more draw steps to find some blue mana, maybe find the Thassa's Oracle, that sort of jam. There's a ponder. So we're probably going to have to bring in... Are we going to have to bring in something for the cage, or are we just going to use our hand disruption? Because we have to worry about counter spells, we have to worry about their combo, and we have to worry about cage. I think the best way of dealing with all of that is just the duress. Maybe we'll have another rethink. Alright, what would you like to take, opponent? The Balustrade Spy? We're not using that anyway. A Boggart Trawler. Here we go. Here come the beats. Are you ready for this, opponent? I don't think you are. This reminds me of playing Dredge in Old Extended, where if your opponent has a Graveyard Hate, you're just playing your guys out. And that's kind of the jam we're living in here. I don't think they're going to have much removal in their deck, if any. A single creature can obviously just turn us massively. But our Boggart Trawler trades with the frog at least. I'm going to pitch a card. Alright, a land. Surprised I don't keep that for a frog or a brainstorm. That probably means our opponent has a force of will in their hand. No? A Doomsday, you say? Okay, opponents. They're going to go to 7 here. And they have enough land that they should easily be able to find a way to win the game. So what are we looking for here? Duress won't do it. Not sure what we can have to beat this. We can't combo off with the resources we've got. We can't mess with our opponent's library with the resources we have. Obviously, Pact of Negationing the Doomsday is not going to help at all. Our opponent can just do a pretty good part there. We can obviously beat them down for a little bit of damage here. Alright. Let's get at them. Put the lethal on board. I'm going to be incredibly surprised if our opponent doesn't beat us this turn. It would be miraculous if we survived. And this Pact of Negation not really doing what we need it to do. A ponder. Sure. So they ponder, they get the next card. And then they can cast like a Consider. And then they can get the Oracle. And then they can take the land that's going to be the bottom card using their Polluted Delta. Right, they're just sacrificing it. That land. That's all much for muchness. So now they have a Thassa's Oracle. Cracking a fetch land. Let's Pact of Negation it. We're going to die on our upkeep. I'm going to go out on my terms. Sometimes you've got to send a message, right? And that message is, we lose a game. Okay, back to the sideboard. Do you want to do anything differently now when we know they have a cage? I think I'm into trimming. I'm going a little bit off the map I've been given here, but I think I want to trim some of this sort of stuff and get in some of this Thassa's Oracle and Hydroelectric Specimens. So this gives us 1 and 1 so far. What else are we thinking about removing here? Obviously the Memory's Journey helps, but our opponent's got so many lines of stuff to deal with. So I think I'm just going to put in another Oracle here. How do I feel about this? If we're boarding out those, we don't really need the jack-o'-lanterns. We're just kind of getting rid of the Memory's Journey line entirely. Maybe that's wrong. This is just an idea I've had. Let's try this. So this way we can try and combo through a cage, as well as just having the ability to combo like normal. Do I think a Thoughtseize and then nothing else is good enough? No, I don't. Got some Duresses. Got a lot of permission here. This beats the cage. I think we just need to do better. Maybe I'm fishing too aggressively. Okay, we keep this. So 2 of these cards go, so it's probably this and this. So we can lead off with a Thoughtseize whilst we're on the play, so our opponent can't brainstorm and hide their hand. Hopefully we get rid of their either turn 1 kill or their interaction for us. Oh, jeez. How are we supposed to get through all of this? That is a tough ask. They're a long ways off of Doomsday, though. I guess we take the Force of Will here. So they have a Force of Negation, which can counterspell our Lotus Petal. Let's play our own Lotus Petal and see if they want to counterspell this or not. Tough hand to get through. So we have more hand disruption. Hopefully, that'll get us where we need to go. If our opponent doesn't find an island, we don't have to worry about the days, although this is just going to be pitched fodder to the negation, most likely. If we find multiple lands, we can just play out the Balustrade Spy and not care about the Force of Negation, because we can just Cabal Therapy from our opponent's hand when the time is right. Our opponent's playing out their Petal. This is because we have hand disruption and we might want to take that. Okay, no, they're actually just... Oh, no. They're just turn one-ing us. They don't have anything to sack to this Edge of Autumn, at least. But, yeah, this is... It's going to be an interesting pile, though, when they have no lands. I assume it has to pass the turn more than once, which gives us a shot. They probably put 1 extra land in their pile, just in case we try and target them with a Balustrade Spy. They could do the top card as a land, and then a Grafdigger's Cage. They can float mana, cycle the Edge of Autumn next turn, get the Grafdigger's Cage down, and then the next one can just be land, land, Oracle. And that's an interesting pile that they could have if they're worried about what we're doing. Right, anything interesting in there? Grafdigger's Cage is not there. There's 2 cages. I doubt they've got more than 2 cages. Okay. Gonna need something good here, deck. A Boggart Trawler. So if we cast a Dark Ritual now, they're just going to counterspell our Dark Ritual, and then we don't get to do anything. If we wait till next turn, we could draw a land, or we could draw a piece of hand disruption. Like, everything is just better if we let our opponent have 1 turn. I don't know if they can win. Depends what they brainstormed into before. Did they brainstorm, actually? I can't remember now. Alright, we do get a turn here. A Duress. Okay, so this is the exact line I was hoping for. Well, not exactly, because now they can daze our Dark Ritual. Although they have the frogs. If we take the Force of Negation, they can daze our Dark Ritual or our Balustrade Spy. If we take the daze, they can Force of Negation any spell. So we just have to play the Force of Negation and hope our opponent has to pass 1 more turn. Yeah. I don't like it, but it's what we have. Our opponent probably has some amount of disruption over there. Alright, Dark Ritual. We need you to resolve. Balustrade Spy. We need you to resolve as well. Yeah, force pitching the frog. That was always a worry, wasn't it? We can't sit there and try and draw a hand disruption because our opponent's going to kill us next turn. If they can draw a land, they can shuffle, get another land out, and then they can just cycle Age of Autumn, cast the Oracle. With Days backup if they so wish. It should be pretty rudimentary for our opponent to win this one. Unless they've messed up their pile. And I've played Doomsday a bit, and I messed up my pile all the time, so maybe our opponent will too. No offense to your opponent. But that's the level of straw I'm clutching at. Yep, so the crack here. Float. Oh, I didn't put the second land in the pile. Okay, so we get the win. Alright, our opponent's going to go out on their own terms here. I did say our opponent might mess up their pile. We'll take it. Alright, GG's opponent. That was a funny one. So, we are 4 rounds in, and we're 2-2. So, doing okay. Let's see if we can put a positive on the board. So our hand goes on turn 1. That's what we do. We can play around the days. Let's lock this in. It is game 1 of this final round, so we're going to go hard here. Alright, and there's a Saga. You know what that doesn't do? Interact with... Oh, no! Why did I open my big mouth? Yes, you will interact with us, I guess. Oh, okay. Yikes. What is our solution here? So we go... Play the Boggart Bog. Cast this. Using this mana. So next turn, we sacrifice this. We use the Jack-o'-lantern if we have to get the mana. We shouldn't actually need to do that. You know, we do need to do that, right? So you have 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, because this doesn't work anymore. All right, yeah. So we have a plan that wins the game next turn, because we do this one-off Oracle. Let's hope our opponent's plan is just like make a construct or something. If they kill our creature, we probably have to sacrifice their Memory's Journey in the upkeep using a Jack-o'-lantern to cycle some mana out. That works. Yeah, we have lines here. So this is what I mean about this deck having a lot more to it than just we slam the thing. No. No. Surely you're not activating your bauble. That's really wild to me. A welder. Because now we can just do it the easy way. Play this out. Play this out. Pay 3 life. I guess we have the mana to Cabal Therapy our opponent just to see what's going on over there. What do I care about here? I don't think there's anything. Just have a look. Yeah, they're just stone cold. We'll yield to our Narcomoebas here. And we win the game. Okay, so playing against Painter. Interesting. Let's have a think about this one. Alright, so I think we're taking out Poxwalkers, Cabal Rituals, Reanimate, and the Pacts. And that gives us access to the Specimens, and some Echoing Truths, and some Oracles. Do I want Stifles or do I want these Oracles? I think we want the Oracles, because if our opponent's got some sort of like, oh, your graveyard doesn't get to do anything, haha, then we can just use the Oracles. A bit like we were going to there if they left the bauble in play. We've already seen the baubles. I believe. Come on, deck. We can do this. Give us a positive. This goes on turn 2. Sure. We'll try this one out. So our opponent's going to have something to say about what we're doing over here. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Sure. We can go on turn 1. How do we beat the Agatha's Soul Cauldron, though? If we're going on 1. I don't think we do beat it on 1, do we? So we'll play our Lotus Petal. Then we'll deploy this tapped. And then next turn we can do our combo and then just slip some stuff back into our deck using the Memory's Journey. Lots of colours mana over there. A Painter's Servant. Sure. They've named blue, which means if they have Pyroblast and Simian Spirit Guide, they can certainly get us. I'll play out this lovely Lotus Petal. I will play this. I will cast a Dark Ritual. I will deploy this Undercity Informer. I will target ourselves here. We get back some Narcomoebas. If our opponent targets our Dread Return, then we can just put a Thassa's Oracle back in the deck and draw it next turn. It shuffles up to 3, so we don't get to choose the order of them if we're shuffling more than 1 in. What are they targeting? They're targeting one of our Narcomoebas. Is that okay? I guess so. Like, we can't Dread Return right away unless we just play this other Narcomoeba out. So let's do that. Alright, they're F6'd over there. Where is that Dread Return at? One of our many Thassa's Oracles. Boop, boop, boop. And Thassa's Oracle comes in. And we win the game. And that is the match and the league. And we finish with a positive record, which is nice. But we did get crushed a couple of times. And it was basically just by blue-black good stuff deck. We should have lost against one of the Doomsday deck. The Doomsday deck that absolutely bodied us there. Because our opponent just messed up their pile. Although, what would the pile be that wins them that game? That is obviously somebody else's burden to work out. Maybe it involves just putting the Grafdigger's Cage into play on the first turn and then just having a couple of lands and getting there that way. Maybe that works. Maybe there's a different line they can take. I'm not sure. But yeah, an interesting game against that. We lost to a Storm deck. They just comboed us better. And we lost to the Rescaminator deck, I think it was. It just, you know, did its thing. It's the best deck in the format. Well, one of the two best decks in the format. I guess Eldrazi's up there as well. But yeah, the blue-black shell is really strong. There's no shame losing to it. What I will say is that our deck mulliganed a lot this league. Now, obviously, we're a deck that's supposed to mulligan a lot because we're looking for a very specific selection of cards to just go. But it did feel like we were mulliganing more than I normally do when I play this deck. So I think we're on the lower side of variance today in terms of our draws. Because if you keep... I don't think we maybe kept 1-7 in this whole league, I think. But if you keep 7s with this deck, you win. And, you know, if you get that variance where you have your 7s, then sure, pretty nice. Let's have a little chat about this list. So there's some things I like here. I think the jack-o'-lanterns are really cool. These are something that I didn't actually use that much, but I was like, okay, we're safe because we have this. We get to do our other thing, right? In previous builds of this I've played that didn't have this sort of effect, Memory's Journey wasn't something that actually got used very often. But now it's like, okay, we float 1 mana when we're going off, and then we have our Memory's Journey. We're protected in some way, shape, or form, and that was a really nice tool to have. I think there's not enough black mana is kind of what I was feeling about this one. I think we were mulliganing some hands because we couldn't actually cast our spells, which is never a place you really want to be. So I wouldn't mind having a bit more black mana in there. Does that mean you're trimming some sinks, like you're trimming 1 or 2 sink into Stupor? Maybe. But then that makes the sideboard plan of actually casting your oracles worse, unless you want to put more lands in the sideboard, but I don't think you want to be doing that either. So it's kind of a bit of an issue there. But this is kind of the problem with this deck. It's going to be weak to some stuff and have some built-in fragility because of the nature of the deck, right? We can't have a deck that goes off on turn 1 pretty reliably and then have it be super easy to defend with and just clock everyone. Like, it needs to have weaknesses, and this deck does have weaknesses. I think maybe we're supposed to be playing things slightly slower, which was what happened a few times where we play a land and then we go on turn 2. The problem with that is the difference between turn 1 and turn 2 is enormous. So if you're on the play or whatever, that means your opponent's getting a chance to cantrip for some counter spells. They've got a chance to have Dazes active. They've got a chance to wasteland you and then set you back another turn. So it did feel a touch slower than some of the builds I've played before. But a lot of that is supposed to be from the sideboard, and it just felt that way because of the draws we had for the most part. But I'm quite happy with this list in general. I think there's actually quite a bit of space to brew around with in the OOPS shell. I know there's like a black-green build. I preferred this to playing a deck with the Summoner's Pact, which just felt like, oh, okay, we're just going to hand our opponent a free win here. Whereas this way our opponent had to actually beat us with stuff, which gave us more turns to have another crack at it sometimes. So I like this build more than the black-green one. I know some people swear on one build, some people swear on the other. But I've seen a lot of this sort of build doing well lately. I did play against a build recently that had cantrips. They were playing Preordain, I think, in their list, which is kind of an odd one. But I can understand why you would want to run it if you're running more blue lands. And their deck was a lot more blue focused. So they're a bit more like a Doomsday deck, where they are a blue combo deck that splashes for a black spell. It was kind of that sort of jam, where you're just splashing for, you know, your Balustrade Spies or your Undercity Informers. And that was kind of the approach that I saw somebody taking. I haven't seen that necessarily pop up in the 5.0 list that I've been seeing. So maybe it didn't work out for them, but that's another interesting avenue you could go. You can definitely change the speed of this. And hell, why not just run a Psychic Frog in here, right? Just play some more blue lands as well and just go, maybe we're playing Psychic Frogs. I think that's a bit of a silly one, but, you know, Psychic Frog is very strong and will draw you more cards with combo. If Doomsday's doing it, maybe other combo decks can as well, but then obviously you're going to lose some of your bits and pieces for that. But it means maybe you don't have to mulligan as hard, which feels rough sometimes with this deck. Obviously, you know, we're a deck that's supposed to mulligan a lot, but when you get down to like 4 cards or whatever, it's like, okay, if my opponent's got it, they've got it. They only need one piece of interaction. Nevertheless, though, this is definitely an interesting deck, and I keep my eye on it and play every now and then on the channel because there's always new little technologies coming through. There's a few people working on this one, and it's always exciting to showcase something a bit weird and wild. The Cyber Plan was something that I did enjoy quite a bit here. Unfortunately, we mulliganed quite a lot when we were boarding in more of the cards. We didn't get to see the fun stuff going on there. But yeah, the deck is pretty sweet for a turn 1 combo deck. There's a lot going on here. All right, Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything and it does help the channel out. We're getting close to 4,000 subs, which is quite exciting for me. And thank you everyone who already has subbed. All right. Thanks for watching and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.